Okay, we're live. Bismillah. So, last few days ago, we read books 1, 2, and 3 from the Marriages of Hadhrat Uthman. May Allah be pleased with him. Radiallahu anh. And now the conclusion, books 4, 5, 6, and 7. So, we're going to read just the final few lines of book 3, and then we'll continue on. Bismillah. Okay, here we go. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thus, at last, the Prophet led the Hajj to bring completion to each Prophet's worshipping. Uthman wed mother's choice. Thus, everything the Prophet blessed before the Prophet's span concluded and his afterlife began. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Book 4, The Two Sheikhs. Alone, Uthman of double light sat well beyond all best believers' scope. A spell of time elapsed since Abu Bakr, sign of truth, declared the passing of their fine, heroic guide and friend. Beyond that town of luminous renown, and in that town of luminous renown, he sat as one. Uthman of double light became a sun. Each moment past the Prophet's death, an age. All firmness flickered round Uthman. The edge of time and space were seen to bend. No one was seen around him. Every forehead's frown a wave. Each child a memory of man. The masjid of the Prophet, best of man, possessed a corner where the cosmos coursed into the breathing of a man immersed in folds of crimson cloth. Uthman, whose well awaits in heaven, sat alone. How hell is nearer to us now than when the kind and holy Prophet walked amongst us, pined the bright Uthman, and thinking thus did ban a calm return to earthly speech. How can we now avoid the snares of Satan bent on mischief and those of this world? He went on to himself when suddenly the twin guides flanked him. Abu Bakr, truest in his words, asked, pointing to his twin, Uthman, good Omar greeted you today. How can we now avoid the snares of Satan, vain of all, and snares of this world too? My train of thoughts was thus this while past, so I saw not nor could hear him. Yes, the formula Shahada with sincere belief is for this, said the Prophet when I did implore. So Abu Bakr's caliphate began. At speed, Osama's army with Uthman the Bright trekked north. The Romans, still well versed in ranking armies, soon grew tense. A burst of fighting by the northern desert well of Wad al-Qari cracked the schemes in full of northern tribes in no man's land who in the Arab lands feared Rome. To them, within that land, no Romans came. And so they fell, the northern tribes, like trees that by some well-armed man crashed to the earth and made the trees about him shudder. Tribes thus paid their fees. Returning home, Uthman the Bright was free to fast, to pray, and feel Qur'an's momentum. At home, returning home, Uthman the Bright was free to fast, to pray, and feel Qur'an's momentum. The Caliph Abu Bakr, truest judge of men and jinn who make the holy pledge, sent armies at apostate tribes. For fine advice, the Caliph kept a group to mine prophetic wisdom known to them, and one among these grand companions was the son Affan did raise. So home he stayed, Uthman of double light, and counseled, as the span of Caliph Abu Bakr's life neared ease. The Arabs had by then paid full their fees. So after 2 years, 3 months, and some 9 days as believers' caliph, that divine decree of death approached. O death, no sting of yours can touch true lovers, those who sing the song of absence. Abu Bakr, judge of men, commanded grand companions, pledge allegiance then to Omar when I'm seen to breathe no more. And thus he left pristine. And so great Omar's caliphate began, and every grand companion, like Uthman, was barred from leaving town by new decrees. The lordly caliph Omar held that these companions, saintly folk, should not be seen near scandal, but in holy towns keep clean. The bright Uthman of double light, a sun for souls and rain for farmers, helped each one who could not eat for lack of funds, a well commissioned now and then, and prayers by full moonlight. Quran and fasting helped refine the lights of longing, lights both gross and fine. And lordly Caliph Omar saw the sign of Hajj approach, which made him then assign its leadership to brilliant Afan's son. And years elapsed, though news believers won, some battle kept repeating. Bright Uthman led Hajj each year and soon became the man most learned in the holy rites, to bring the pilgrims who from every country sing their love of God, to bring them to the aid of their own souls. This was Uthman's new trade. His payment was to see believers one. His payment was to see believers one. In far off eastern lands did Khalid quell alliances between the Persians, well prepared for war, and frontier tribes. With fine maneuvers, Khalid's army held the line. And when Medina heard that Khalid won, folks prayed in thanks, for odds were 3-1. Soon letters from the Nile and Jordan ran the same. We beat the Romans to a man. Just Caliph Omar with his whip was seen in streets throughout this ever richer scene. He waited for some slip, then hit someone. Though demons stalk the earth, they Omar shun. His term was just, as Halwa can attest, for when he liked the foreign gift, the rest of town was treated too. And when each clan was gripped by famine, Caliph Omar ran at night to help distribute meals. And down at last the rain came falling on the town. And when Medina heard that Syria, who was conquered with Jerusalem, where awe does grow in tree and rock, folks prayed. The town of awe surrendered, but the chief's renown asked Caliph Umar come to them, the one most firm against this trip, Uthman. But one day Caliph Umar went and brought the fame of justice to Jerusalem. The name of God filled holy air, and devils ran, and Rome retreated. Persia could not fan its fire no more, unsure. In all of these, belief in one God led to victories. And all the world in straight rows stood, immersed in prayer, it seemed. And Caliph Omar, first to prostrate, led them all in deeds. No man who learned of Omar's death cries not. The man who stabbed you and those others who had been, like you, prostrate in prayer, had never been a Muslim. Grand companions said, the king of all the worlds, the caliph thanked. This thing was no attack by Muslims. So his span as caliph of believers lasted an entire 10 years plus half a year. This chore of leadership, just Umar said before he passed away, belongs to six who, more than all companions, must now lead. If 4 days pass beyond my death and no one can decide who leads, then kill all six. Uthman was thus elected by the voting done, and so he took the oath from everyone, each grand companion in Arabia, each Muslim jinn and angel armed with awe. Book 5, The Caliph. The Caliphate of doubly bright Uthman, the son of calm Affan, in peace began. He measured claims that slave conspiracies compelled revenge attacks. He paid the fees of blood himself to save a Muslim son. The news of Caliph Omar's death did stun each land it passed. So angels armed with awe to bright Uthman reported what they saw. Intelligence angelic then began informing Caliph doubly bright Uthman. His tenure started as a wedding does, with vows to God Almighty, promises of duty, presentation of a ring. And thus the Prophet's signet was the thing that wed Uthman to ordered firmament, that sealed the earthly letters that he sent, inheriting municipalities so vast they spanned horizons, swallowed seas, and subtly warped the accent of a language. The shining caliph soon would have to judge between the precedents of laudable, sublime, heroic caliphs all could tell were wisest in their day, or newly please the spirit of the prophet, heaven's ease, by gathering what was to him sent down and publishing Quran, the children towns appeared to squabble over which of seven enchanted dialects best champions the truth, each one correct. The Caliph's council, all grand companions, then selects to quell debates about what was revealed divine. The council picks a reading, then consigns the rest to flames. The grand companion's town aglow with firelight as the sun goes down. A foot then smoothens pebbles as Adhan their silence interrupts, and calls each man and woman to a simpler universe. 6 copies of this standard holy text, compiled by Caliph Bright Uthman, whose well awaits in heaven, helped the cities still their hearts, maturity in Yemen, kind, compassionate Medina, Mecca lined with truth, for Cairo, Kufa, 2 Qur'ans, and finally a text for Syrians. In Syria, the subtle governor, picked by great Omar many years before, was happy to accept the book now sent by Caliph doubly bright Uthman, by Caliph doubly bright, who gave consent at last for fighting on the waves. The 2 of you must go, the Caliph wrote. Yes, you and your most precious wife, if on a barge you deem it safe to fight Rome's naval edge. Great Omar's ban to fight upon the brine was lifted with this double-edged design. So then the subtle governor would budge the Romans from their deadly naval edge, and push back here and push back there. The tan would cut to bolster fleets as islands can the greatest booty make. O desert char, by embers drowsy after meals, how far your folk have come, as kings, as queens, as one great wave of footfalls on new shores that glisten. When, in the course of centuries unspent, the sea between Rome and the Orient is named Othman's Lake by its masters, then grand fleets will float past memories of din. But now, the early days, those desert town commanders, dressed in battle's metal gown, unfurled new sails and clashed with Rome each season, uncurled new maps and spread believers' reason. Across uncertain Africa, they'd trudge past desert, mountains, past each frontier's edge. All this occurred while they'd awakened first to pray before the dawn and have rehearsed some verses from the holy text. Dispel diversions, wrote their caliph masterful. That eye in which there's no discernment bred is like a foe within its owner's head. Such stern directives sent he to each one who held some power over population. Complaints from Egypt made a man step down, the governor who'd conquered all their towns. Complaints from Kufa made the governor resign, a man of heaven who could not ignore a complex loan repayment. Treasuring new freedom and new wealth, each realm now sang. That eye in which there's no discernment bred is like a foe within its owner's head. Believer armies worked to spread their awe that human choice is basic to the law. Divinity is singular, and all communities were sent a prophet well. The Caliph Uthman, the Caliph Uthman doubly bright had seen his great Egyptian Kufic Damascene battalions win and quickly change his map's perimeters, a living fringe. By day he read and wrote. He turned serene 10 problems, then preempted 17. The stipends for the people grew by far, a quarter more in stipends since Omar the Great had routed Rome and Persia. Clan identities gave way. Believers ran the governance and garrisons. With chores of leadership all put to bed, some more Quran the Caliph often read. Lone well in paradise awaiting. What can tell you how it was? Othman, without a care, slept in the Prophet's mosque, alone, just there, sometimes beneath a blanket, maybe woolen, the pattern of the pebbles printed on his side when he awoke. Rebellions shine across the towns of Persia flashed, but died. So when the owner of the final reign of Persia's line of emperors would deign not sleep in hay, preferring bed or spa, the farmer giving refuge slew him. Ah, repay me with these ruby rings, melt down our corpse's crown, my lass. His wife had sewn a purse to life from silky robes found on the lifeless limbs. All this as Ramadan would melt believers' cravings, nights enliven, seeds sown for afterlives. The caliph's plan to grant believers food and drink to dine on ear and after fasts would help refine their gratitude. In fatter months, the tone and mood of masses shifted, leapt, stooped down. The newest province, Africa, had men that travelled ever westward on those 10 fast piebald steeds, who'd sip with privilege from ponds of plenty by the ocean's edge. And did he come from other worlds, that tame Imam Iberian, who stood the same in morning prayers, amid that soil and scent that centuries would find intoxicant, as generations yet to form a line? Since Battle of the Masts, a peaceful nine then crossed a strait and prayed near Spanish towns, unseen. They drew a map of what they found and sent it to the Caliph, showing shore and shore of Africa and Spain, a door to seas surrounding Rome. He wrote, intent on subjugating Europe, armies sent from Spain and Syria will come from two opposing fronts of Europe. Then they'll view Constantinople and, at last, converge within the city's hardcore, a total siege. Reports would in Byzantium begin with desert monotheists stunning winds. The Cyprus island to the Caliph went. Iran, the empire to the Caliph went. Sistan, Tabaristan, and Rhodes were next. Azerbaijan and Khurasan were next. The only people who a treaty won were Nubians due south of garrisons in Egypt. Nubians had mastered an exquisite art of war, to hurl a lance at holes in helmets from which war was seen. The only person who a Byzantine battalion bettered as a European defender was a shady one from Yemen, a dragon-tongued deceiver who was cursed, and by the very men who claimed were gods, and by the very men he claimed were gods. The Caliph of the Seal of Prophets can feel all the heartbeats in Afghanistan. Hear all the cities' whispers with the towns, and spy the cosmos through the book sent down. Next year, he conquered all Transoceania. But he said, no, I still miss my Ruqayya. There was a time when in his house the sound of her voice calling them to hurry down for breaking fast in Ramadan, both son and father, could be heard. And though no reason have little boys to fast, Abdullah came to feast upon the goodies all the same. 3 decades later, cousin Al-Hassan would in that dining room tell bright Uthman, we'll die for you, my army, me. He says, go home, my nephew. Wait for God's decrees. Along this new world cared for by that man, clairvoyant democrat beloved, sand would prayer floor make as folks in rows and rows would stand attentively in afternoons, Adhan just having gathered them. Ameen, they'd say as one, and then disperse pristine. Along with marriages to each new town, whose people holy geniuses would crown, the Caliph bright Uthman kept busy in the standards for sincere administration. All this while, on the side, he ran a huge financial empire, so he took no wage. As wealth would fill folks' pockets, hymns the air, the grand companions would dispersed, repair the tears of fabric that the average believer made. As masses came to rage their grievances at Hajj, the Caliph sent them home enlightened, loved. You can't with mundane things the Prophet's love compare. Companions beat you just by sitting there. The 90 million invocations your sweet fingers count cannot compare, cannot surpass the snore of God's beloved that they heard when large they stood outside his war tent as the guards. The standard holy text, whose copies went to 6 great cities, 2 produced, 1 kept by Caliph doubly bright, a 7th twin, as if he was a city too within. He read this gathered book through those half-dozen years privately, enjoying what companion consensus could achieve. He sensed, though, ripples from new believers' hearts, which felt less stable. The grand companions are the starry shine that help guide masses across horizon lines. The Caliph in his 60s wed a Christian. Superbly beautiful, she spoke with reason. Their conversations and debates were spent on language of prophetic covenants. She saw him pray while others slept. Then a complete Quran recited he in a rakat one overnight. She loved this wine for ears, inebriating hearts. But thine heart missed recitals from a bygone age. when Kulthum's sobriety'd assuage. Uthman to China's dynasty, the Tang, had sent a delegation that their king received with so much love that in Canton he built a mosque, a zenith of the Han. That final Chinese caliph, born of women ere earth sterility, that darkest omen, proclaims that God is God, that man is man, and animals can't sit as humans can. Proclaims he thus that distant day when green grass, jungles cover Arab sands. Serene he'll be, that shepherd who lost his sheep, when in unnamed forests, finds he ruins gone from maps. Upon them dawns the hour. But first, remember all the love that was rehearsed there. Even when the Caliph Bright Uthman enjoyed his recitation of Quran amidst the trespassing murderers' frown. Great Adam seated, contemplating now. O heaven night, O cosmos bright, O awe, O gentle shyness, highness whom you saw. Siesta dream showed you your love would bound around the pain that you absorbed from towns who littered 1500 seasons on the frontiers, deserts, heartland, everyone a sheikh who needed time to grow. To fame that God himself confirmed. For your sake, game was hunted, wine was poured. O bright Uthman, a heavenly iftar with honey, an array of dates in nonlinear ways, and rose milk. Breakfast with the prophets easy. Once Caliph Ali, eloquent, responding, told why the civil war was happening. For Abu Bakr, Omar, Uthman, and I, but serving us, you class of men. Book 6, Double Light. From matter free, the deity divine, angelic human souls who've passed recline, unending contemplation, love broke and exquisite thought released in presence can, through mortal measures, change a sacred thing, that in great lasting attribute to bring, awakened everlasting fragrance. Wing the turtle, bird, fish, ox are vibrating across the lips of this most telling well, that in its depths requires a prayer to draw the arc of motion, me releasing, seen, eternal, me ascending, me unseen. The way of standards outward limits man, a teleporting path, a hidden plan. What you and I may hazard with a down reveals the offense that our hearts may crown. Unending concentration, lovers' awe, a deeper contemplation, wonder, law. Emerging on the roof, construction's keys, a touch to paradise, a woman frees, distinctive knowledge, open heart the man, all starlight hid in O Ramadan Quran. The boys had bothered you, so you traversed upstairs, and from the roof their leads addressed. Companions, empires, afterlife. A claw, in plumes the size of lifetimes, stepped in a reflecting pond, a footprint, footfall, blend, just sitting cross from them in quiet kind upon the edges of a well, cloth, light, a trinket sold a rope of light, a man. They said themselves, I'm martyr, not a king. I'm thrice the holy prophet's signet ring. The children learn to crawl, archetype, clang, and vision. Wives are starting food fights, zing the arrow, woodland secret. Boy's failed plan makes mess, his father helps to pick up bran. Year 6 of 12, the holy signet ring is lost inside a well. A dragon's wing then stirs, though overhead the angels span the sky on piebald steeds for bright Uthman. A pilgrimage of wordy echoes mine the kingdom, shadow, otherworldly line, the splendors, cover, movement, children, man and woman I have given to my clan. A tycoon wandering takes not a thing. Soft, gentle, playful ties of womb that bring a common mercy to unending string of gravity, a story folks are building. To juggle planets round the cosmos well, the circle round the paths will now excel. She underestimates, delivers keen, she weds, woos, cheek to cheek is love seen. Free, smiling, happy babies, nations can be nursed. Dream milk makes sense. Toys harder than a giggling paradisal wealth is down this street. The way you walk there, crimson gown, to babysit 11 million, saw the wood to build a ship, porch, wheel, cruise, saw a continent as black lines set on seas. Emir of two, sky open, sandy, please. An evanescent species glimpse the man, would love cleanse, prop delight, a darkness ran. The prophet's love, his sword, his law, inheritance so sacred it would draw perfection from reciters of God's name, the genius from the scholar's legal aim, the measured fearlessness from kings who tame. All three in rightly guided caliphs came. The tact shown by the holy prophet made the world, became his Al Hassan's staunch aid. Hope, child, unite the people for Allah. Not, not you, I, but justice here, Allah. So splendid speech sends ripples evermore in rings throughout the centuries or more, expanding in an intellect, her gown, her eyes half circle. You had given down divorce so many times to gorgeous women, your father intervened one time, gave one big speech to warn would be fathers in law who didn't care. Across some eons, caw the interstellar birds drunk with your name. To touch you meant that girl to heaven came. The spirit masters centuries can bring may swim in light year oceans neath the wing. Archangels spread in concert with Uthman, the caliphs and the holy prophets span. Those masters of the spirit are a sign. There is an order armed with awe so fine it's hidden even in a merchant's plan. Some decades after civil wars, a man who'd friended God observed a wondrous thing. An old man gripped the Kaaba, whimpering. His withered face and palms were shivering. He pled for God's forgiveness, then wailing, decried, I'm cut off from the merciful. The friend of God asked, why? He said, Rebel was I 1,000 months ago. Obscene you were, said friend, but God forgives. Gangrene, the man continued, took the life of a comrade who broke the caliph's staff. Jinns paw at other comrades' faces till they seize their minds with madness. Aye, but I, with these now crippled hands, had slain him. Kicked the man so hard, the friend of God did, that he ran. The way of prophets, caliphs, and Uthman is easy if you stop to think. A man with simple tastes needs simple truths. A grain turns into bread. A hand is cup in rain. A roof is pillared by your peace, and clean respect is clothing. Simple hearts can mean you vote your conscience and obey the law. Your will, then, rules this world ephemera. Without a means more when praying. Or, to put it simply, straight path means the door of God is here within your chest. Love's ore is free from judgment, here within your core. The prophet, freed from means more. Uthman, for kin of Al Hussein and Al Hassan, means life renewed, means guarding every season, till God Almighty is the single reason. Book 7. Apostrophe. Most merciful of merciful, O please, God, pardon me, forgive, and grant me ease. Most merciful of merciful, O please, God, pardon me, forgive, and grant me ease. Most merciful of merciful, O please, God, pardon me, forgive, and grant me ease. I've wronged the way of he who prayed at night, as diamonds dripped from eyelids to his shirt. The way of he who gave by day and sent free meals throughout these earthly continents. For his sake, God, in double lights immerse my grave, my rise, and to this epic verse. Ameen. Wa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.